In the dim belly of the Ashcroft Institute, where dust falls like forgotten prayers, a wall gives up its secret. The workers found it by accident, a hollow echo behind a layer of brick, a sound that didn't belong. Evelyn March watches, her gloved hands clasped, eyes reflecting the glow of work lights as the past is pried open. The painting inside is wrapped in decayed linen, its frame blackened with soot, its scent metallic and old. The conservators murmur about lead, about preservation. Evelyn only hears silence, heavy and magnetic. For one suspended moment, even the hum of the lamps seems to hold its breath, as though the air itself knows what should never have been unearthed. They bring the painting upstairs under sterile lighting, the echo of their steps filling the stairwell. Evelyn feels an ache in her chest, not fear, but recognition. In the restoration chamber, she orders the linen removed completely. The air grows colder with each layer peeled away. The portrait is revealed, a woman in her mid-20s, seated in an antique chair, eyes tilted slightly apart. Her pupils seem to vibrate, caught between focus and blur. No one speaks for nearly a minute. When Samuel finally exhales, his camera fogs. Evelyn whispers, almost reverently, "She's been waiting." Professor Ashcroft insists on documentation. His voice trembles with intellectual hunger. Every pigment, every stroke, catalog it. Yet as he peers closer, he begins to stutter. The paint texture shifts, refusing focus. He adjusts his spectacles, leans in again, and stops breathing for several seconds. The others think he's fainted, but when he straightens, there's blood trickling from his right nostril. "Do you hear it?" he murmurs. "She's humming." Samuel reviews his footage alone that night. The video shows something no one recalls. The moment the linen fell away, the painted woman's eyes blinked once. He replays it again and again, scrubbing through frames, but the motion is subtle enough to question his sanity. When he looks up from the screen, his reflection lags a heartbeat behind. He exhales, whispers, "Don't look too long," and shuts the laptop. But the faint echo of the blink lingers on the monitor like an afterimage. In the hallway outside the lab, Evelyn pauses by the covered glass case where the portrait now rests overnight. The corridor hums with low fluorescent buzz. For an instant, she sees her own reflection inside the glass, but the eyes that look back are not hers. They are deeper, darker, dilated beyond recognition. She leans closer, her breath fogging the glass, until movement behind the canvas catches her attention. The faint suggestion of someone walking away inside the painting's background. Then, silence. Morning light bleeds through the high windows of the restoration suite, filtering dust into gentle constellations. Evelyn works in silence, her brush trembling above the surface. Every centimeter of the painting seems alive with microscopic motion, a pulse of color that breathes beneath her scalpel. She leans closer, documenting flake patterns and pigment inconsistencies. But each photo she takes shows a slightly different expression on the woman's face. One moment serene, the next sorrowful, then subtly angry. When she lowers the camera, the expression resets, calm, knowing. She whispers to the empty room, "What are you trying to show me?" Samuel replays the morning footage. Each file shows the portrait's eyes at slightly different positions, one looking left, another directly into the lens. He adjusts the contrast, isolates frames, searching for compression errors. But when he pauses on one still, a whisper threads through the speakers, a soft melodic hum, too organic to be interference. He listens again. The sound repeats, faint but rhythmic. His jaw tightens. He checks the waveform. The frequency matches a human heartbeat. Ashcroft enters the lab with a tremor in his hands and a mania in his tone. He insists Evelyn step away from the canvas. "You're overexposing yourself," he warns, his voice brittle, his pupils dilated. But even as he speaks, his focus drifts to the portrait. He stares long enough to lose track of language. "Do you feel her watching you?" he whispers. The silence that follows is almost reverent. Then, a low, resonant sound, like a single cello note vibrating through the air vents. Evelyn stays late, determined to rationalize what she's seen. Under ultraviolet light, hidden layers appear, not under painting, but words. Faint Latin phrases embedded in the pigment. "Audire silentium," she reads aloud. To hear silence. The letters vibrate subtly, like veins beneath translucent skin. Her breath catches as one phrase rearranges itself, forming her own name. She steps back, heart racing. The hum returns, louder now, matching her pulse exactly. Samuel can't sleep. He wanders the Institute's corridors, the echo of the hum following him like a presence. He stops outside the lab door, the light still on. Through the glass, he sees Evelyn, motionless, standing before the portrait. The woman's eyes in the painting seem to move between frames as his camera rolls, first glancing at Evelyn, then directly into his lens. His breathing quickens. For one impossible instant, both sets of eyes blink in perfect unison. Sleep abandons Evelyn. When she closes her eyes, she finds herself standing inside the world of the portrait. A dim corridor, lined with candles that never flicker. Air, heavy, with turpentine and ash. The painted woman stands ahead, her back turned, her breathing slow and deliberate. Evelyn tries to call out, but no sound emerges. The woman lifts a hand, pale, trembling, and points toward a door at the corridor's end. When Evelyn opens her eyes again, she is back in the lab, brush still in hand. Though the faint scent of candle smoke clings to her hair, Evelyn confides in Samuel, describing her dream. He listens intently, his camera still running. "You said a corridor?" he asks, turning the monitor to show her something he captured during last night's recording. In one frame, behind Evelyn's reflection, the same candlelit hallway appears faintly in the background of the painting. The timestamp confirms it occurred hours before she dreamed it. Neither of them speak for a long while. The silence between them feels alive. Professor Ashcroft's condition worsens. He wanders the Institute's upper halls, muttering to unseen figures. When Samuel finds him, he's standing before a cracked mirror, whispering to his reflection, "She told me how to see." His pupils are blown wide, veins dark beneath translucent skin. When Samuel turns him gently away, Ashcroft smiles faintly and murmurs, "You'll hear her soon too." Moments later, his reflection blinks independently of his body. Evelyn begins documenting her own symptoms. Her notes tremble with uneven handwriting, visual distortions, voice beneath sound. Light behaves like water. She films herself as evidence, but in playback her mouth forms words she never said. The video timestamp runs backward for several seconds before correcting. Exhaustion and obsession entwine. She begins to suspect that the painting isn't a window at all, but a mirror that remembers whoever looks too long. That night, Evelyn dreams again of the corridor, only now she's standing at the door the painted woman once pointed toward. A hum fills the air, low, resonant, like her own heartbeat, externalized. She reaches for the handle. On the other side is her laboratory, but inverted, colors wrong, light moving in liquid waves. The painting stands on the table, still wet, brush in hand. And in that instant, she realizes someone has been painting her. The figure lifts its head. It's the painted woman, but she wears Evelyn's face. Margaret Vale arrives, trembling, clutching a rosary so worn the beads have lost their sheen. The old nurse remembers things no one else will speak of. Her voice is a soft rasp. They called her the listener. She tells Evelyn and Samuel that the artist wasn't an outsider but a patient, a young woman confined to the asylum after painting portraits that spoke back, The last canvas, she says, was painted with a mixture of blood and linseed, sealed behind the wall when the voices grew too loud. Evelyn listens, every word a stitch pulling the painting tighter around her mind. They lead Margaret into the restoration room. The moment she sees the portrait, her entire body locks. "You shouldn't have brought her back," she whispers. Her rosary breaks, beads scattering across the floor, each one rolling to a stop in unnatural unison. When Evelyn asks who the woman was, Margaret's voice falters. "Her name was Clara Vale," she says, voice cracked. "My sister." The silence that follows feels heavy enough to bend the air. Margaret's story spills out in uneven fragments. Clara was gifted, obsessed with the notion that sound could live forever if captured in color. She painted in isolation, believing her portraits could record the final breaths of those she depicted. When the asylum admitted her, she painted one last work, a self-portrait, though no one dared confirm. Margaret swears she heard her sister speaking through the canvas the night they sealed it away. She said, "I'm not inside the painting, I'm beneath it." Evelyn's pulse quickens as she realizes the lower layers she'd uncovered weren't under painting. They were burial shrouds. Evelyn locates the chapel once attached to the asylum, where Clara supposedly prayed before sealing herself away. Inside, mildew climbs the stone walls, candles long melted to pale roots. On the altar lies a single object wrapped in black cloth. Clara's journal. Its pages are stiff, with dried pigment and blood. The entries detail her experiment, layering sound waves into paint through resonant vibration, a process she called transference. The final entry is unfinished. The body is only the first canvas. Evelyn reads the words aloud. The chapel lights flicker like a pulse. Or be should sending you or impulse. That night, Evelyn listens to the audio Samuel recorded inside the chapel. Beneath the echo of her own voice reading, another sound lingers. A whisper layered under her words. She slows the playback. The voice forms a phrase. "Look beneath." She turns to the painting. Under her gloved hand, the texture feels wrong, thicker than before, warm to the touch. Her scalpel hesitates above the lower edge. For the first time, she feels the painting breathe. Sleep becomes a rumor. Evelyn no longer eats, barely blinks. Her notes dissolve into scrawled loops that spiral off the page. The lab reeks of solvent and something faintly organic. Iron, heat, decay. She murmurs to the painting as if consoling a frightened child. "I understand you," she says softly, her voice brittle with exhaustion. "You were only trying to be seen." But the air hums again, rising and falling like breath, and in the reflection of her magnifying lens, she swears the woman's lips move in reply. Samuel confronts her. The footage has become unusable. Lights dim, focus drifts. The image tears with spectral static whenever she nears the frame. He pleads for her to stop, but Evelyn only smiles. "She's showing me," she says, touching the canvas with reverence. She wants to finish what she started. Samuel steps closer. The temperature drops. On camera, his breath clouds, though the room is warm. "Evelyn," he whispers, "what if she's using you?" She looks up, eyes glassy and unfocused. "Then I'm already hers." Evelyn isolates herself completely. The doors stay locked. Samuel hears her voice through the metal, soft and rhythmic, as though she's conducting a conversation. The surveillance camera shows her circling the table, the painting turned to face the wall. Still, she speaks to it. "I can feel your pulse," she says on the recording. "You're almost awake." At 3 a.m, the feed cuts to static. When it returns, the portrait faces forward again, and Evelyn is gone from frame, though her voice continues murmuring from nowhere. Samuel breaks into the lab. The smell hits first, metallic and sweet. The painting's colors are brighter now, alive, The background deepened into impossible perspective. He trains his camera. The lens refuses to focus, depth collapsing inward as if the image is absorbing light. He calls her name, voice echoing raw. From somewhere inside the painting, faint laughter rises. Not cruel, but familiar. He stumbles back, frame trembling. "Evelyn," he whispers. The laughter stops. Then from behind him, "I'm here." Hours later, Samuel finds Evelyn sitting on the floor beside the painting, eyes fixed on its surface. Her voice is calm now, almost serene. "She's finished," she says, smiling faintly. "Look." He kneels beside her, heart pounding. The portrait has changed. The painted woman's face is Evelyn's, rendered with breathtaking precision. Her expression peaceful. Beneath it, the faint outline of another face lingers. Clara Vale, fading like memory beneath fresh pigment. Samuel reaches toward the frame, but Evelyn stops him gently. "Don't touch it," she whispers. She's still wet. Samuel spends the next 2 days combing through hours of footage, desperate for proof of what's real. But something is wrong. Evelyn appears in recordings from before she found the painting, standing quietly in corners where she never stood, watching herself work. Her expression never changes, calm, almost pitying. He slows the playback, frame by frame. The deeper he looks, the more she fills the background. Reflections, monitors, glass, her face multiplying like a contagion of memory. The institute itself begins to warp. Hallways repeat, staircases loop back into themselves. Doors lead to rooms already occupied by their own shadows. Samuel records each phenomenon, his breathing shallow, voice trembling on the audio. "This place is folding," he whispers. Fluorescent lights flicker in sync with a low hum echoing from the lab. The same frequency embedded in Clara Vale's pigment formula. The building pulses faintly, like a living lung. Samuel enters the lab. The portrait glows softly in the dark, the paint's surface undulating like water. Evelyn stands beside it, or something wearing her form. Skin too luminous, movements slightly delayed. "I needed to understand her," she says, voice layered, echoing from 2 throats. "Now I see. Her reflection in the glass doesn't match her motion. When she turns toward him, her eyes shimmer with pigment, veins branching outward beneath translucent skin. She's not trapped anymore," Evelyn whispers. "We're both free." Desperation drives Samuel to destroy it. He grabs a palette knife and slashes across the canvas. A scream erupts, not from Evelyn, not from the painting, but from inside the sound itself. The power dies. When emergency lights flicker on, the portrait remains intact, the cut sealed over with a shimmer of fresh pigment. Samuel drops the knife, trembling. The painted woman's eyes have changed again, now unmistakably his. Hours blur into seconds. Cameras record nothing but static, yet the monitors still hum faintly, feeding from a signal that no longer exists. In the final footage recovered later, Samuel is seen kneeling before the portrait, whispering, "I understand now." His head tilts slightly, mimicking the painted woman's posture. When the lights cut out, the screen fades not to black but to color. Deep ochre and flesh tones swirling, as if the lens itself were being coated from the inside. The last visible frame. 2 faces perfectly superimposed, his and Evelyn's staring outward from within the painting. Morning breaks over the Ashcroft Institute, pale and indifferent. A maintenance crew arrives to find the doors unlatched, the halls emptied. The cameras are still recording, their red lights blinking patiently. Dust hangs thick in the air, and yet the equipment hums softly, as though something unseen continues to breathe through the wires. On one monitor, the restoration suite remains perfectly still. The painting sits beneath the lamps, untouched. No trace of Evelyn, no trace of Samuel. Only a faint rhythmic distortion in the feed, like a heartbeat remembered by the building itself. Investigators arrive hours later. The footage is reviewed, frame by frame, each reel degrading slightly, as if resisting translation. In every video still, the same anomaly appears. The portrait's expression shifts subtly from moment to moment, not frozen but evolving. One officer swears he hears a faint hum through his headphones, a low female voice beneath the static. He removes the headset, pale and trembling. "It said my name," he mutters. No one responds. The playback continues, though the power to the monitors has been cut. Weeks later, the Institute is officially condemned. The restoration suite is sealed once again. Lights extinguished, walls left to dust and silence. But inside the dark, the painting endures, untouched, unaged. Every so often, security cameras briefly reactivate despite disconnection, capturing still frames of the portrait. In one such image, the woman's mouth is no longer closed. Her lips part just enough to reveal the glint of teeth, or the impression of a word forming in the dark. A documentary segment airs years later. The Ashcroft phenomenon. Former staff, police, and local historians discuss the event. None can explain the footage anomalies, nor are the reports of dreams shared among those who worked the case. One interviewee admits she still hears humming when she passes old televisions, its memory playing itself back. The screen cuts to archival footage, a slow zoom into the portrait's gaze. Static blooms across the frame, swallowing everything. Years pass. The Institute collapses under redevelopment, its foundations swallowed by earth and time. Only one artifact survives: the portrait, found sealed in a museum archive with no accession record, no donor file. The curator who catalogs it notes the strange varnish, a sheen like human skin, warm to the touch. He pauses, frowning at the faint sound of humming in the distance. When the light flickers, he glances up. The woman's eyes, once cast aside, now gaze directly forward, and her mouth curls in the faintest smile. Then the screen cuts to black. Silence.